Welcome to this week's episode of WEtv. Today we're talking toxic debt, the minefield that is credit cards and all of those bad debts, what's good debt and how you can get yourself out of debt if you need to.
This is an area that is completely normalised by Gen Y, but realistically is really misunderstood.
I'm kind of scared, but let's dive in.
Absolutely. I'm just already thinking about where my money has gone.
Oh, where?
Well, I was saying earlier, I don't spend money on clothes. That's just not, it's not my thing. I really enjoy looking after my skin.
Oh, you do have nice skin.
I know. and I've spent a lot of money looking after it. And I know that in the last couple of years, through a little bit of credit card use, I have spent I reckon I spent a couple of $1,000s on microdermabrasions and IPL and have you done LED light treatment?
Yes.
Yeah,
it's so good.
I don't know why it's $100
awful,
though.
But it's so good.
And vitamin C cream and E oil and all kinds of things.
Serums, they're like $100 more each.
Oh, $100 and you've got
and apparently you need like A, B, C,
yeah,
D, E.
$100 is a bargain. Like,
you need all the serums. Okay, so you got married. You spent all your money making your skin look nice, which was potentially an investment in those photos.
Yeah.
But how did you do it? You used your credit card, didn't you?
A couple of years ago, I found myself with just a credit card that was sitting in my back pocket and I wasn't using it very often. And then I found that there was sort of these big lumpy expenditure base that I was having to sort of budget around each week. And I was struggling a little bit. So I would put it on the credit card and then I would pay it back. And I was like, okay, I've got 4 weeks to pay it off. I'll pay, $100 a week because that's how much I was spending. And it was fine. It was fine for like 6 months. And then they'd sell me products. And so it was like, it went from like a couple $100s a session to being like a couple $100 plus the extra serum and the extra whatever. And so suddenly I was getting myself outside of my cycle and I couldn't pay it off in time. And I started paying interest.
And that was when you were avoiding me.
I was actively avoiding Sarah's calls because she was like, we need to have a coaching session. And I was like, oh, but I've just got to sort out my debt situation before I see her. And then I was like, you won't look back. You won't look at the history. You won't notice that it was ever there in the first place.
No, and then we sat down and I was like, where did this debt come from?
Yeah.
We've been working together for quite some time and all of a sudden you have a credit card again.
Yeah, and I was like, where did this come from? And why are you paying interest on this? Like I had money. Mm-hmm. And the other question you asked me was, what does Eric think about this? And I had to say, I'm pretty sure he doesn't know about it. The card was in joint name, so he could have found out if he really wanted to. But I knew he didn't know, and I was not.
He wasn't looking around.
I wasn't. He's not assuming that I'm hiding things in the background. He's just noticing how fabulous my face looks every day, and so it was so shit. It was so shit talking to you and going, yep, my name is Rebecca, and I have toxic debt, and then you told me I had to pay it off, and so I had to then tell Eric that I needed to take $2,000 out of our buffer account to pay off this debt that I had been hiding, and it was awful. It still makes me feel sick when I think about that. That was only a year ago, 2 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, you're not alone, and I think if it's hard for us and we're financial professionals. Yes, that's what we are. We're financial professionals. And we fuck up with our credit cards. So if it's hard for us, it's hard for everybody. I mean, I haven't had a credit card for quite a long time, but back in my heyday, like I totally racked up so much credit card debt and it was so bloody stressful.
I remember reading in your book before I joined the WE team and I was reading Get Rich Slow, and when you were traveling.
Yes. So I think I went traveling when I was 18 and I got a credit card debt. I did get a credit card debt as well, but I got a credit card. I started with a credit card, ended up with a credit card debt. Got a credit card because, I'm going overseas and in case of an emergency and it's a safe thing to do. And really, I mean, having that access to credit, I think meant that I didn't save as much for the trip. And then while I was there, I did have like this extra $3,000 or whatever it was so that I could spend more. And, you know, it definitely wasn't emergencies, let's just say, shopping in Paris and eating out in London and yeah, there weren't emergencies though. And I came back to Australia with like $3,000 worth of credit card debt. I was like 19. I remember lying awake I think I was in like this campground out of Venice, and I was just lying in my bed thinking, oh my God, when I get back to Australia, I'm going to be like so sad.
I'm going to have to look at this.
Yeah, I could pretend throughout the day that it wasn't there, but as soon as I went to sleep and then I'd wake up in the middle of the night and be like so freaking stressed. But I do think that because of how normal it is, like not everyone gets stressed.
No.
Like that's the weird thing for me. I had this member that I was working with years ago who had heaps of credit card debt, and every time we sat down and we would look at it all and we would like make this plan for her to like reduce it, and then we'd get back together the next time and like if anything it had just gotten worse. And I was like, this was before we could track, so I couldn't see what she was doing when she wasn't with us. Technology's way better now, but after like a year of working with her, I just thought I am like a failure as a financial advisor because she just keeps getting in more and more debt, and we'd have these super serious conversations. So I ended up saying to her like, okay, I think I'm failing. Can you please tell me, like, what can I do better to help you get out of debt? And she was like, well, the honest truth is the moment I leave your office, I just don't care. And I was like, oh. Because I'd been assuming that she was like me and she was lying awake at night stressing about it. But she was like, no, I literally, the only time I think about it is when I'm in your office. And I think that's because it's so normal these days. Like everyone has credit cards, credit card debts. Everyone's throwing down plastic to pay for dinner or whatever. And so it just seems like that's the normal thing to do. And I guess for her, it was totally normal and she just really didn't care that much. Life was good, life was fine. She didn't have to worry.
And you know, you get the opposite of it now, where you go out for dinner and someone says, I don't have a credit card, and everyone's like, what?
I know.
What do you do? How do you live?
I know.
I had a member, you know, it's really common talking to me that they say, I've only got $25,000 of credit card debt, or I've only got, you know, a $15,000 personal loan, or
oh my goodness, yeah.
I think I've heard I've only got a $50,000 car loan. That's a big loan.
That's a big only.
That's a big only, and probably the most I've seen is, I think it was $150,000. That person said they have a debt problem.
They got it, yeah.
But even then, it was like, I've got a bit of a debt problem.
I mean, I just think it is tough. I think we all earn pretty good money and we're struggling with it. I can't even imagine what it's like for people who, you know, are living on low incomes, but it has just become totally normal. And that's because of being like 18 years old and getting that first credit card, and then you can finance everything these days, cars, whatever, boobs, teeth. My friends finance their boob jobs. Like, it's insane. And then you've got all the interest-free, 48 months interest-free for furniture, and it's super tempting to just do it. I also think there's a bit of a rhetoric around, like, I can manage it. I can game the system for my benefit.
Oh, yeah. I can buy this TV and I only have to pay $25 a week for the next 2 years.
Yeah, and I'll be the one that I won't, like, stuff it up and have to back pay all the interest. But inevitably, you know...
I think I had a credit card for 5 years before I paid a single dollar of interest, and I thought that I was so awesome.
Yeah, but the real problem
until the
is
point,
like
they just stick in there and they hang in there, and eventually you trip up, and you have to fork it out.
I guess not only that, but you do spend more. Like that's what I found when I was using credit cards. Even though I was also like, once I got out of that first big round of debt, I was like, right, I'm never going there again. And then I started using my credit card properly. But, you know, I was just spending more. Like, you know, rather than having my personal spending allocation of whatever it is every week and just having to stick to that, I was trying to use my credit card to like flow through the expenses and get all the points, but I wasn't really able to stick to my budget. So even though I could still pay it off at the end of the month, I was spending like 30% more probably than what I would have been spending.
Well, it's because your credit card doesn't tell you when you've hit your ceiling, saying, oh, Sarah, you've spent all your personal spending this week, don't spend any more.
I know. And I mean, even with tap and pay, like it's quite hard, but I'm just like addicted to checking my bank app to make sure that I'm still, but also like if I only have, like my personal spending is $250 a week. Admittedly, I do have more expenses that flow through the business because, you know, some of my travel and things is covered there, but like, because I only get that $250 and that's all I have, like the thing will actually just decline if I get to that point, which is a good thing. Actually, like one of the other things that happened to me when I was overseas was they used to allow you to overdraw your account. So when Visa debit and MasterCard debit used to, when they first came out, like you could overdraw. So I had my credit card that I racked up to $3,000. And then once that was racked up, I was like, oh. And then like a Visa debit transaction just went through on my card. And I think it was especially because I was overseas. Like I don't know if that would have happened in the Australian system or whatever. But so I'd also got like $500 or $1,000 of like overdrawn account. And that was even worse because I had to pay a fee every time I got it overdrawn, like a flat fee, like $10 or $30 or something like that. I can't remember. And then I had to pay interest, and they have like a really high rate of interest when you're overdrawn. So, I mean, that was really, really annoying as well. Fail. That was like a total GRS fail.
GRS fail.
And I was like convinced. I remember I found my diary a few years ago, my 19-year-old diary, 18-year-old diary, and
Lots
I read
of insights.
it. Lots of insights. I was such a blamer of the world. Like I read this diary entry and it was like, you know, I mean, so much debt, and because the bank, they let me overdraw my account and I was such a bloody victim. It was sickening, but I was only 18. I had to learn my lesson. But yeah, I came back just blaming the world for my debt. And I guess it's easy to do, and I do still now think that, you know, marketing and credit card marketing and this total easy access to credit is setting us up for failure.
Oh, massively.
I mean, the first step is definitely like ownership, like don't be a victim like I was and just friggin' own it, because I knew what I was doing. I just didn't want to admit it to myself. But we are living in a time where it's super easy to get into debt. Like it's tough to avoid it.
I mean, I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, but like the banks are assholes.
Yeah.
Like, they're going after you. Like you said, the system's set up to screw you over. You know, we get offered credit cards. I reckon I was 15 or 16 and I was depositing money from my first job at the bank, and they were like, hey, Rebecca, you seem like you're a really good saver. Would you like a credit card?
Like, yes,
thank God I said no.
But that's good.
But they keep coming after you and they keep saying...
Well, and the marketing makes you think that when you're a grown up and adult, that's what you do.
A successful person has a credit card.
Yeah.
A successful person has a black or a platinum.
Totally. All the marketing is like the platinum card, the black card, they've got ones made of steel, and people are like, look how fancy I am, I've got my steel card. It's like, oh, look how fancy I am, I've got my own money.
I've just got my pile of cash that I'm just going to pay for everything with.
Yeah, I mean, maybe not cash, but like that's what I said I remember I had this like super wealthy surgeon who was like, oh, I have to have a credit card, like that's how I live. And he was making so much money, but he was just spending it all. And I'm like, how about if you just like actually had your own money? Wouldn't that be better than having a credit card? And he was like, oh yeah, that seems cooler.
Have you had to try and break up with the bank though? Because I know I've done it and they did not go down without a fight.
It's tough. Like they do everything to keep you there. I remember I had cancelled a card once and I'd moved house and I forgot to cancel one. I think it was like a gym membership and it was something that I wasn't really using, or maybe I think I wasn't using it, but I didn't realise. And they just reopen your credit card. So like a year later, I got this letter from a debt collection agency who had tracked me down because like $300 has built up on my credit card over a year. And I was like, I cancelled this card. And I rang the bank and they're like, well, if you have like automatic direct debit set up, they just reopen it to fund the thing. And I was like, this is an absolute joke. Like I was so annoyed, but it's fine. Like I should have been more diligent to get it paid off. But I was just like, this is like the system is designed for people to fail.
Well, when I tried to cancel my Amex after my epiphany with you last year or the year before, and I'd already chopped up my card because obviously I could not be trusted with it, but I needed the card number to actually pay the credit.
The BPay?
Yeah, I needed it for BPay. And I called them and I spent like 15 minutes on the phone trying to identify myself, and they refused to give me my card number over the phone. And the only way they would give it to me was to send me a new card.
Yeah.
This is me calling Amex saying, I cut up my card because I can't be trusted with it. And they say, here, we'll send you a new one.
It's
so frustrating. And I think people will have had relationship breakdowns that were easier than breaking up with a bank. I've had members and they tell me, they go, oh, Rebecca, I tried to cancel my card, but after 10 minutes, they convinced me that they would do this, and they've put me on a lower interest rate now.
Yes.
And so I've decided I'm just going to keep it, and I'll see how I go for a little bit longer.
All the benefits and all that. But I think, we have to be honest with ourselves that the credit card companies are making more money out of us. Otherwise, they wouldn't have to make those enticing benefits like points and all the other different, access to these lounges and all these benefits that you get.
I think even with balance transfers these days, if the credit card companies can afford to give you 2 years interest free,
Yes.
and they're still in business, like how much money are they making, and how many people are not clearing their debt by the end of the balance transfer period?
Well, they know the game, because once they get you in, they've got 2 years to get you spending. And I think that's a big trap people fall into as well, actually, is like do the balance transfer, but then don't cancel the old card. So you've got to, if you are going to do it, and like, yeah, it can work for sure, but it's like make sure you cancel the old card, because otherwise you've ended up with 2 and you've probably just doubled your
debt.
potential debt. Yeah, that's the danger zone.
Oh, God. Should we talk about some good debt?
Yes.
Because I actually,
good debt, yes.
I mean, I like debt. I think debt is awesome, and I think debt is what has allowed me personally, and I know it has for you, to actually grow my wealth relatively quickly.
Absolutely. I mean, I bought 2 properties when I was in my mid-20s, and obviously used debt to do that.
You mean you didn't just buy the property?
No, I didn't, believe it or not. So it's really the only way to get into the property market for most people, especially in their 20s. But it was great. Like, I was able to leverage what savings I did have to be able to purchase a property. Interest rates on property tend to be like a fair bit lower, obviously, than personal loans and stuff. So, it's quite a good way. I have a margin loan now, which you do as well.
I love it so much.
I know.
It's such a fantastic thing, and people often think of debt being associated with property, but you can actually borrow to invest in shares as well, which has allowed me to sort of rack up that asset pool pretty quickly.
Yeah, and I think the main thing is like debt that is used to buy an asset versus debt that's just used for lifestyle. Like, that's the easiest way that I can decide whether I should or shouldn't take on debt is obviously, what am I using the money for? Like, if I'm using the money to go out to the bar on Friday night, or, to buy new shoes or clothes or whatever, like, that's the worst.
Bad debt.
Yeah, that's bad debt. But if I'm using it to buy a property, to leverage my share portfolio, or even in business, when I ran the private wealth management firm, we made an acquisition about 2 years in that allowed us to double our company size, because we bought another business and merged it in. I mean, that was great because we knew what we were buying. We had a contract in place with the person we bought it from that verified all of the clients and everything like that, and that worked out like super, super well. But yeah, if you're using debt to just fund your lifestyle, or even cars and things, because they're just going to go down in value. So
when I bought my car, which I love, I had the cash to pay for it, but I was like, oh no, I want to hold on to my cash.
Yeah.
So I took out, I think it was like a $10,000 car loan, and then paid interest on that for 3 years.
But don't you think that just shows the psychology of like how our minds work in terms of
so normal?
You're so much less likely to part with your cash because you had to work so hard to save it and get it there than you are to use credit, even though credit is going to cost you more. But somehow psychologically it just feels like you're not parting with your own money as much.
It's just easier.
It's just easier.
The other thing that, it seems so silly with what I know now, is back then I thought, I'm going to take out my car loan so that I can build my credit rating.
Yeah.
So that when I want to buy a house, I can show how awesome I am at repaying debt. And so I thought I was working towards I thought this was a really good thing. I thought taking on this car loan was a really fantastic thing.
And I think there is an element of building up a good credit rating, but you can also do it through paying your bills on time, paying your rent on time, anything. Yeah, it doesn't have to be specifically through the form of like a credit card debt or a car loan or what have you.
It's funny, like I was so ready to go into that car loan a few years ago, but when I finished paying it off, it was just
the best feeling. Yeah, I would never like get a car loan again or I never had a car loan actually, but I just would never do that. Like,
I'm going to be driving that Suzuki Swift for another 10 years. Make it completely worthwhile.
Until it's breaking down. Why not?
Yeah, might be soon. All right, so good debt, we go buying property, buying shares, maybe buying businesses. You've got to be really careful on that one though, because you've got to really know what you're buying. So I'll just share like my absolute worst thing I ever did financially, I think. So I don't know if I've ever told you about this. When I was around 25, I was working in my dad's company, and
this woman I met who was doing this startup in the financial services sector that I thought was really interesting, and I started working with her on it and decided to buy into the company and become a shareholder. And it was in the startup phase, but we'd agreed to go 50-50. We'd agreed on all of these things, and I got a personal loan out to buy in. Now, stupidly, while we were drawing up the contracts and finalising all the details, I started funding the business because she'd run out of money, and I was funding it with the loan, with the debt. Yeah. So I'm funding the business, and then took ages, took like 3 to 6 months or something for the contracts to come through. And when they came through, they were like all wrong, like different amount of shares, different share class. Like I wouldn't have even had voting rights, like all this stuff that we hadn't discussed. And I was just
alarm
like,
bells are just going off.
Oh yeah, it was I remember that day, I was just gut wrenched, and I was like, I can't go into business with this woman. Like all the trust that we had built up was just destroyed in that one contract. I was like, were you ever going to have a conversation with me that we weren't going to do the deal the way we said it, or were you just expecting me to sign?
How much money had you sunk in by then?
So by that point, I was just short of 50K in. Fucking idiot. It's like, how can you be so dumb? Anyway, needless to say, I pulled out of the deal. There was definitely a time where I was thinking, oh, I should stay in because I should try to trade out of it. Like,
isn't that like when gamblers chasing their debts?
Totally. Like I nearly did that, and then I was like, nah, fuck it, I'm not doing it.
One more horse race and I'll get my money back.
And she was like all disappointed, and I'm like, dude, what? Anyway, so I decided not to do the deal, and I spent 3 years paying off $50,000 in personal loan that was probably at the time at an interest rate of about 13%. So that was like a super good lesson. And for someone who's trained in finance, that's not my finest moment, but it was, it taught me a lot about business and a lot about debt, and I would never do anything like that again, of course.
Yeah, well, we say it so often because we deal with people who are intelligent, they're earning good money. A lot of them have a financial background, but we're shit with this.
Yeah. Well, we're not taught how to, if it's hard for us, it's hard for everyone else. Like we're not taught at school how to manage money. Basically just follow our parents or whatever, and they weren't taught either. So it's tough. Like the system is definitely set up for us to get into all of that easy debt. It's so easy to get into debt and so much harder to get out of it. But yeah, that's the world we live in.
And, we were saying before around how having crappy debt can really impact your ability to get good debt. So if you do want to take on those projects to grow your assets,
yes,
the bank, even if you thought you were doing all these things to get a great credit rating, the bank's like,
well, yeah, it's credit limit.
You've got 3 credit cards and they've each got $20,000 limits on them.
Yeah. So if you were wanting to borrow $500,000, you might only be able to borrow $440 because you've already got $60K. Yeah, so there's those considerations as well. Every single facility that you have is judged by the limit, not the balance that you have owing on it.
So how do we stay out of this mess?
No credit cards.
No.
Cancel them. I have not had one for, you were naughty, but you haven't had one for a long time, but you did one naughty, sneaky one.
Oh, and it was just, it crept up on me, and it still takes me by surprise how it happened.
Yeah, because I guess since you joined where you didn't have one, except for that one naughty one, and then I haven't had one for 7-8 years, and that's the only way forward. Like, don't worry about being cool and having this fancy credit card and getting all the benefits and all of that. I think if you're in business, you can potentially make it work for you. Like I do have a credit card in the business, but it's quite different, and you don't have the impulse spending that you have from a personal side. We just put all of the regular expenses that we have anyway on the business. But yeah, generally no credit cards personally at all. None of those debts that are for lifestyle type items that are not going to go up in value, and use debt for good, like leverage.
Not evil.
Yeah, not evil. Use debt for good. But yeah, use it to help you build wealth, not destroy your wealth.
Okay, I've just remembered I do actually have one credit card. No, it's fine.
No, it's not.
It's not fine. So I have a travel card.
Oh, yes.
Right? And this is what I think a lot of people are like, but I need one for travel. Yeah. So I have a travel card because it allows me to withdraw in all the different currencies. It lives with my passport.
Yes.
And before I travel, I prepay it with cash.
Okay.
So I've never used it as a credit facility.
Yes. Okay. I'll let you off the hook on that. As long as you don't get sneaky on one of your trips. And
the alternative is taking a shitload of cash when I travel.
Yeah, which is not great.
It's not great.
Yeah. You'd lose it all.
Yeah, exactly. So, but I'm, again, understanding my behaviours, understanding the lessons of the past, lives with my passport in the filing cabinet.
All right. How do you not spend over it when you're away, though?
Funnily enough, I'm actually really good with budgeting when I travel. And we actually go super conservative and almost leave like $500 to $1,000 of like headroom in case go a little smidgen over. Okay. And you sort of budget around each day. I'm so much better at it with traveling now. I think about it than I am
in a day
in normal life.
You're probably more considerate with your money when you're away because you know that you've set that limit for the trip or whatever.
Yeah, and you want to be able to spend and relax with it, but it is good to still be mindful of that.
Yeah, I don't even use the travel cards. I just use my own.
But I am so happy to be proven wrong. If someone can tell me that there's a better card out there that's not actual credit.
Yeah, it's tough.
With different currencies, it's just challenging. But that's it. I promise. No more cards. No more cards. I mean, the other thing I do see a bit, and I felt in the past, is around like direct debits that need a card attached to them.
Yeah, but you can use Visa debit or MasterCard debit these days.
So
there's
bullshit.
really
just call bullshit on that.
Calling bullshit on that. There is really no excuse. Like you can set everything up now. I think like the normal bank accounts are now Visa debits and MasterCard debits, aren't they? Like all my cards are like that.
So you can still tap and go to your heart's
yeah. So that was a pretty heavy topic, but I feel like I've kind of like cleansed myself of all my terrible past situations with debt. Next week we have a much more exciting topic. We're talking about wealth creation in the form of what is your number? What is your financial freedom number? So join us and we will explain what that means next week.
Now, if you want more information on anything we've discussed today, click in the show notes below. We go through all of the information as well as some really good action items to get yourself out of debt if you're feeling it right now. So no excuses, move your ass.